Hotep, I'm Dr. Gloria Lattimore Peace, host and producer of OmniU Presents the H3O Art of Life show. The title of our show is Toward Community Wellness, and I have in the studio with me as my guest today the president of Malcolm X College, Ghingo Brooks. I love the spelling of your name because it's so deceptive, and you have to really know you to get it right. So I'm happy that you told me how to get it right.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
For allowing me here today.
Well, I'm glad you're here.
Thank you.
And then, of course, I have my trusted, dear, intellectual friend, Hunter Haviland Adams III, who is with a lot of things, Lifeways Science Consortium. What other affiliates do you want me to mention, Hunter?
The Royal Circle Foundation out of Baltimore, a small educational foundation.
All right. Wherever there is something good and exciting and for the betterment and to elevate the consciousness and improve the quality of life in the community, you will find Hunter Haviland Adams III. You will always find him there. So I was not surprised at all when I got the call from Dr. Leonard Ingram telling me about the initiation of a wonderful and bold new project at Malcolm X College called the Karnak Wellness Institute. And of course, when you sent me the information about it, and I saw that you had Hunter Adams involved in it, I knew that it could go nowhere but up. And so I'm just very happy to have the two of you here to discuss it. And I talked to you a little bit about its beginnings, its organization or creation in your conversation. So talk to me a little bit about that, and then we'll talk about what we envision as being the final or the product that is finally rolled out for the public.
Absolutely. Well, again, thank you for having me.
Yes.
I'm so excited about this opportunity. And just as you mentioned Dr. Hunter Adams over here, this opportunity of talking about Karnak and how we can impact our community has allowed me to meet this man. And one of the visions of Karnak is to bring people together like Dr. Adams, who have the interests of the community at heart and want to change the community. And just haven't started this process, but has been on this journey for a long time, but have found another vehicle through which we can make a change, a transformation in our community. So I'm so very happy. Karnak is an idea that came as Dr. Leonard Ingram and I were having a deep discussion one day in my office. And I was telling Dr. Ingram that Malcolm X College is a great institution. It has a great legacy. We're celebrating our 40th anniversary. And in 1969, when that institution came about and opened its doors, since that time, it has transformed, it has changed the lives of so many people. We have outstanding alumni. People like Attorney Standish Willis, Henry English with the Black United Fund.
Mm-hmm.
People like Cynthia Henderson, who's a medical doctor who came to us as a dropout and went on and got her GED, associate degree at Malcolm X College, and now she's a medical doctor. Dr. Reva K. Williams, the first black female astrophysicist. She has a PhD from Indiana State University in astrophysics. Just a long history of people where this institution has changed their lives. So I was talking about, you know what, in this next 40 years, I want Malcolm X College to make a direct impact on the community. And in doing that, we're going to take this college out into the community to address the concerns and issues of our community, of our day. And we talked about it primarily because Dr. Ingram had came to me to assist us in talking with our students. And you know, he's noted in anger management and conflict resolution and all of that. And said, you know, I need us to do more in our college with our students and to teach our staff how to address some of these issues. And so this is how Karnak was starting to evolve. How do we directly address some of the issues that we're facing? And so Karnak is right on the precipice of opening. We're not having a ribbon cutting yet, but I want to have a ribbon cutting. What we've done at this particular point is develop the white paper so that we can put our theory and our concept onto the paper, and we can look at it and we can really examine it and analyze and see if we're on the right direction, and so that we can communicate to the public what we're trying to do. And what we're trying to do is very noble. We're trying to change the conditions in our community. And so we want to address high school dropouts. We want to address teen violence. We want to address domestic violence. We want to address wellness in general, our health. We want to look at every aspect of our society, of our community, and address it head on. And not just to talk about it, but to come up with proven theories through the people of the likes of Dr. Adams, of Dr. Ingram, of people like Chandra Gill, people who have done things and have proven that these theories work in practice. So we're coming to provide solutions, not just talk about the problems, but provide solutions and provide those solutions to the community. And hopefully this will take hold, have a ripple effect, and we'll begin to see a transformation in our community.
Well, that was a nice opening statement, Your Honor. I'm very happy that Malcolm X is going to extend itself into the community, is going to reach out and bring the community in to talk about its concerns, because these concerns are shared by the community, and we need the leadership. We need the expertise. We need the people who will have the commitment that Hunter talked about as we were beginning. He said one of the things that we must have, because you've been out here a very long time, you've got a very great track record in these original and unique ideas and projects. But we must have people who are not just coming to us for, for the feel good about doing something good for a moment, but people who are willing to commit to the long haul and not excited about immediate results, but are just interested in doing the right thing for as long as they can do it. So talk to me about this, because your experience tells us that we have something that we can use as a guide.
Well, one of the things is the notion of Karnak. What is Karnak? Mm-hmm. Well, Karnak is actually the Greek name for the temple in Upper Egypt, or Kemet, and it was these institutions. They weren't simply places of worship, but they were, I guess the best way to say, they were a sort of a university, but not in the sense that we understand it today. But they were centers of learning, centers of exchange of ideas, centers of teaching, places where the intellectuals of the country came together to develop strategies on how to maintain social organization and cohesion, how to pass on knowledge, how to educate succeeding generations with a lifeway system, which we know as Ma'at, that would be sustainable. One of the problems today for our societies today is that it doesn't seem that any tradition is sustainable in this environment, because our environment is vastly different from, Europe or Africa. That the complexities of life today are really profound, that we have to rethink notions of ethics, particularly given the new technologies on the horizon. Not just nanotechnologies, but there's a lot of things on the horizon that require deep thought about Should we do it? Should we not do it? What are the consequences? What are the consequences of neurotechnologies, for example, neuroenhancements? Should people be allowed to take certain pharmaceutical drugs to enhance their cognition, their memory, their emotional states?
Their performance.
Performance enhancements, so the notion of performance enhancements are taking a whole nother turn, not simply just steroids for athletes. That's going to put some people who are economically challenged at a disadvantage when others have access to those sorts of things. And they do already, because you can go online and buy them. So the notion of Karnak is grounded in a way of life, a life sciences in its broadest sense of elevating life, not about death or pathology. And I think a lot of people need to hear something fresh, because all they hear is death, destruction, disease, decadence, despair, depression, doom. That's what we see. Mm-hmm. And so we would hope that this institute, this wellness institute, because it's about wellness,
Absolutely.
would offer an alternative, a new vision, a different kind of light, that a different way of living is possible here in Chicago, on the west side, on the south side. It is possible. In a recent edition of Ebony Jet Online, the community activist Mark Allen said, he said that maybe violence is just a way of life in Chicago. I disagree. What should we do? Just accept it? Just sit back? Well,
it certainly can't be regarded as a way of life when its ultimate conclusion is death. So
Right.
it would have to at best be a way of death.
Right. I disagree that we should just accept this. I think with the cadre of resources, intellectual, social, economic, in Chicago, unlike any other city in the country, we can just sit back and just wait for another teenager to get beat up in broad daylight or shot. The problem is very complex. You have health problems, health issues. Many people, adults, 60, 70 years old, are still using marijuana. They haven't got past that stage. So they've been raising their children in that environment. Nobody wants to talk about that. They don't want to talk about that, but we do, because we think there's track records around the country of people, programs that have been successful in addressing these problems. They're not elusive, they're here. Anyone can find them, but we have to be honest. And that's one of the things this is going to be about, is radical honesty, is that you have to admit that you have a problem, what the problem is, and want to work to solve it. And that takes honesty and commitment and being true to oneself. So that's what Ma'at represents, at least one of the things, is truth. But truth that is multi-dimensional. It's not just simple, just telling the truth and not telling a lie, but it's more to it than that. And so we would hope that with the courses that'll be offered, with seminars that will be offered at some point, some will be for credit, some will be, you'll get a certificate, all those things are being worked out, those kinds of details, that people's lives can be transformed. People have to see that they are more than just this, that they are not their circumstances, right? That's not them, that there's something more to them than the way that they're living. And that's what we hope we can get people to see. And if they can see that, if we can, as the old spiritual say, this little light of mine, I'm going to make it shine. If we can make their light shine then it's going to shine on other people in their community, and it'll be contagious because folks want to know, well, what you got? You know, how come every time I see you, you got a smile on your face, despite how things appear to be? But we don't have to accept this. We don't have to accept death and destruction and decadence. We have to address the fact that people are being socialized, co-parented by the media. People blame the parents, but the parents are a product of the media, being socialized by the media. They weren't raised on the Brady Bunch, right? You know, they weren't. So it's a different, where you had a family. It's a different kind of socialization now that we see in the media. And people pick that up. I know the research, the neuroscience research. There's a conference of 30,000 people at McCormick Place earlier this month. Neuroscientists from all over the world came to talk about those kinds of findings. So the data is there as to how people are behaving, and the data is there how you can get them to change. But they got to be motivated. You can't be motivated if you're smoking marijuana. I'm sorry. It's not possible. So we have to work to get people off. You can't be motivated if someone is doing heroin. And a lot of adults are doing that. Ask Dr. Carl Bell. He can tell you, any psychiatrist who treats people, they'll tell you that the drug problem is serious. And that leads to physical abuse, emotional and psychological abuse of children. We see it in the stores when 2-year-olds are cursed out by their mothers who happen to be 17 or 19 because they don't know how to manage those emotions, to manage their anger, to manage their frustration. So, you know, these are the types of things that we would want to see people would be able to benefit from by participating in some of the offerings that Karnak will have at some point.
I just want to make a little side remark before I read this quote that your project is predicated on.
Yes.
And that is that one of the things that I have learned is that marijuana, the marijuana of yesteryear, is not the marijuana of today. That marijuana,
It's far more potent today.
And it's being commingled with other stronger drugs.
Yeah, PCPs.
So yes,
things.
so what we, you know, what people, maybe the old school people might have thought of it, you know, as just hemp, just grass, just reefer. It is not just that simple plant that grew out of the ground.
Yeah, it's just plus.
But it is, yes, exactly.
Right.
And so what we're dealing with is not a simple matter, because not only do you have to stop people or get people to recognize that using marijuana is a problem, but you have to get them to recognize that the marijuana that they're using has more to it than what these other people were using, and it has a more profound addictive effect than what people used earlier. Because sometimes people tell me, the old school people tell me, they use marijuana at will. We have people now who cannot exercise any will over the use of it because it incorporates other kinds of drugs that they may or may not know are present. So that's another part of that problem. But when I read this Karnak Institute is dedicated to Malcolm X, to the memory of Malcolm X, and you took a very good quote from By Any Means Necessary. We need enlightenment. We need more light about each other. Light creates understanding, creates love. Love creates patience, and patience creates unity. My theme song is Umoja. Umoja is the message. We have got to be united. We have got to be brought together. If enlightenment is the key to that, if knowing more about each other, which means knowing not only each other, but knowing ourselves, know thyself, to know thyself, to know thy history, to know from whence we have come and look at how far we have fallen, and we're in free fall because we haven't stopped falling. You know, to know this and to know that we have been this greatness and that we can continue to be this greatness and that we need not fall and we cannot. It's impossible to say that we could sit idly by. We cannot do it. We cannot allow ourselves even to consider for one moment of remaining apathetic and silent, while even Reverend Sharpton recognizes we are living in a war zone. We do not know whose child is next, but we know certainly there is a next child. We see it every day. And we say the media is co-parenting. You are absolutely right. Parents are not alone in the rearing of their children, and they may be less involved than any other agent, because many parents are at work. They're leaving home early in the morning, sometimes before the children go to school, and they're coming home in the evening, sometimes after the children have returned home. And even parents who are at home, we've got all these distractions and all these elements. You know, you've got video games filled with violence. You've got television filled with violence. You've got toxic music. You've got the levels of toxicity surrounding these children. They are inundated. And we are not paying attention. We are not seeing what is growing up before our very eyes.
Because we're in denial, and leadership isn't bringing it. You know,
Where's the leadership?
Rather than 100 clerics, you know, come out in support of a particular political candidate, you know, they should have been organizing a rally for redemption. You know, instead, you know, that's the beauty of that quote from Malcolm, is that he starts off that you can't have unity without enlightenment.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have that. You have to bring forth the light within each other. Is absolutely crucial. And then you have to have love and patience. Those are key things. But people can't love themselves if
they don't know themselves.
If they don't know, and if they're getting toxic food, toxic water,
toxic music.
The regulations concerning water are abysmal. The New York Times just ran an editorial recently about the quality of water in specific zip codes. You can go to the EPA website, type in your zip code, and you can see what the quality of water is. You can go to the EPA and you can look at what chemicals are still in the ground around Argyle Gardens and Eden Green. That's where a lot of behavioral problems are coming from. You know, they never did finish cleaning those places up. I mean, they're sitting in the midst of where steel mills used to be.
And chemical factories,
right.
paint factories.
And Sherwin-Williams Paint Company, which is, you know, almost not existent. But the problem is multifaceted. You have to look at all these things simultaneously. You can't just look at one thing and then, okay, we're going to run over here. So there's stimulus money, so let's get some of the stimulus money. But what are you going to do with it? People are going to be competing for their own organizations, programs, but there's no coordinating body or umbrella or overarching theoretical framework. That's what's always been missing, is this overarching theoretical framework that can help provide that unity. And that's what we need, that kind of enlightenment, which that framework can provide. And that's one of the consequences of being captives in this country, is that all of that was broken up. The line, our lineages were broken. They were shattered, you know, from tens of thousands of years of oral history. That was cut off. And so we're trying to recapture that today. And many of the youth, we have to give them credit. I'm sure you see them, that they really want to know.
Yes.
they really want to know. They really want to know the truth. And they are searching. They're searching for answers. They want something more than just something to make them feel good. You know, self-esteem building. You know, they want something that's going to transform them.
Well, President Brooks, you know, I take back what I said, where are the leaders, because obviously I'm looking at one. I'm looking at someone who is taking the lead, because the leadership comes from us. It comes from the people. Leadership imposed from on high is never leadership in the interest of the community. So you are of the community, you are in the community, and for you to recognize that you are president of an institution that has resources and that can bridge this gap between the people who have the economic and other kinds of challenges and the institution that has resources that can address those challenges. And I'm very happy to see that you not only have you formulated this notion in your mind, but that you have started to outline and to identify the people who will participate in this project. Now, I'd like to mention the name of someone that at some point I'm sure you're going to encounter, because if you've got Hunter, you're going to encounter all the best people.
Yes.
And this person is Phil Coran. For the last 2 weekends, he has been having classes. He's an astrologer, he's an astronomer, he is a musician, he is an ethnomusicologist. He is many, many things, and his concern has been that he would die and take this information with him. He does not want to take years and years of study away with him without sharing it with the community. So he is always seeking a place to have classes, and actually he has done work with the planetarium. Actually composing music for one of their
African Skies.
African Skies, one of their programs there. We have the resources. You are quite right. We have the resources within our community to address these concerns, and you have just come up with the forum to bring all of these people together, to unite all of these people toward this common cause. Now, can you name some other people? I know Dr. Carl Bell is one of the people that you will be working with, but some others that you will be working with.
And let me just also go back to Dr. Adams' point in terms of the little light. And we all know that Fannie Lou Hamer made that really important and imperative for us, because here was a sharecropper, okay, undereducated, who changed the course of the Democratic Party and the 60 elections. And so it shows you the power of people who have the right spirit, the right heart, and want to go in the right way. And so that quote is so pointed to what we have to do with Connaught. We're trying to find those kind of people. And that's why Adams has looked at it, he's read it, and said he wants to work with us. We're looking at a lot of people, and we haven't gotten the approval for all of them, but I'm going to give you some names of other people who we're looking at and who have proven themselves, such as Phil Coran. And you're right, he has a history in Chicago. We know him at Malcolm X College. He has a history there. And you're right, I need to reach out to Phil, because Phil does have a lot to offer. And I'm sure once he reads it, he would want to be a part of it. Once he reads that white paper, and it's just still in the draft, but I'm sure once he reads it, he's going to add to it and see that it has the right spirit and is going in the right direction. And it's part of the solution. It's not a part of the problem, it's part of the solution. One name that comes to my mind, and when I give you a name and what they're going to do, it's not so much that that's the only one, that's the only expert. There's other people in this area. But I don't know if you ever heard of a young lady by the name of Karen Calabrese.
Have I?
Karen Calabrese
Yeah.
is a raw
Oh,
foodist.
Karen with whose
The
restaurant I
restaurants.
was in on Sunday.
Okay.
I don't ever think of the Calabrese part.
Oh, that's right. But Karen.
That's Karen.
That's right.
Okay.
Karen Calabrese
Okay.
has a raw food place.
Right.
And so you've been to her institution, and you know she has the restaurant, she has the
Cook food
store,
restaurant.
and then
The
she
spa.
then she has a spa. The whole process of wellness is right there with Karen. And what we've said here is that we recognize the importance of nutrition, of eating properly, which is a big part of our problem in the community. And so Karen is someone that we reached out to. We want to be a part of this program because Karen has proven, okay, of what eating raw food can do for you, to you, and for the people around you. We know that Karen's been on raw foods for a very, very long time, and she's still surviving, and she looks great.
Doesn't she?
She looks great. 60, I think she's, don't want to give her an exact date because I don't have it on mine, but Karen's in her 60s, and you wouldn't know it. And in our community, we don't think we can go a day without meat. We don't think we can go a day without anything cooked. We don't think we can go a day without eating. But we can. Dick Gregory's proven that to us a very long time ago, and a bunch of other people. So Karen is one of the persons that we've reached out to. Of course, we mentioned Dr. Ingram and Dr. Leonard Ingram, who is just probably a jewel in our community that we don't really realize or recognize for what he's doing. And he's a person who just has a super heart and knows and recognizes what he brings to the table and what he can do for our community in terms of the whole anger management issue, the whole conflict resolution issue. You know, too many times, you know, we resort to violence. We just go from 0 to 60, just like that. And so we're looking to him. Dr. Edith Young is just a superhuman being. She has a doctorate in reading. She's done work for the Department of Education, for the state of Illinois. She's out in the western suburbs now doing some work. I told Dr. Edith Young, you need to be in the city of Chicago, working with our youth and working with our parents. She's a reading specialist. She's working with one of my students right now who was able to get through the public school and, do you know, can't read. He's got a high school diploma and he can't read. Dr. Young is teaching him how to read. He can read right now. She's had him for about 4 weeks on a Saturday, and he can read already. Now, some simplistic things, but what she would do if she had the time with this young man to spend with him and really develop him. I said, Dr. Young, you've got to come. She's teaching a class for me right now, and she travels all the way in from the suburb after a full-time job to do this. But she wants to be in Karnak. She is a Karnak, okay? And so she is going to contribute to this. These are the kind of human beings that we're looking to come in and make a difference. Kwame Nkrumah says that thought without action is empty, action without thought is blind. These are the kind of individuals who have the vision that we can make a difference, and we will make a difference. As you said, we've got leaders upon leaders. This city of Chicago probably has the most recognized leaders in terms of business, in terms of social, political, of any city in this country.
In the country.
So you wouldn't think that the things that are happening here wouldn't be happening here. We have the brain power. Do we have the desire to really change it? And so we have to sacrifice ourselves sometimes to address what's happening in the larger community because it's bigger than us. And it will impact us. It does impact us. We can drive home right from our jobs and drive back to our jobs every day. But one day you're going to have to get out the car, or one day you're going to turn on the TV and you're going to see what's happening. And we just got to look at ourselves in the mirror and say, did I contribute anything to this?
So will you be organizing this through adult ed at the beginning, because it has to have some entry into the City College?
Yes, absolutely. Great question. We're going to offer it through our continuing education division, which is our lifelong education division. And that's where we can design curriculum and get it approved much quicker than a college credit curriculum.
Right.
There's some college credit curriculum that is there, that's available for us, but for the kind of issues that we need to address, we need to be able to do it fast and in a hurry, and based on the expertise of the people who are bringing this information. Because what we're going to do is take Dr. Adams' understanding of neuroscience and get into people's brains about how we can change some of these thoughts that we have. How do we control our mind?
Whoa, now.
How do we control our mind? Not by somebody else who knows how to do it. How do we do it? Take control of our own mind. And so that curriculum isn't there, right? The educational institutions that we come through, they're basically to transform us and conform us into the society that we're in. They don't look to solve all of our problems. They just look for us to follow the line. And so we know we've got to change the curriculum, and we've got to be able to do it fast so that we can inject it into the community.
But you can do this, and I know you can do this because you have the tools, you have the instrument. Because a given professor, I have done this, a given professor can design a course, can recruit the students from for the course. The course can be offered through continuing education. The students who want to take that course can sign up and pay a very nominal fee for adult education, continuing education courses, and it appears in a catalog. They can register for it. A room is assigned. They can have the regularly scheduled meetings. I think for 6 weeks. Is that the term?
Yes.
And they can actually take the course, and if they want to repeat it, or if the same person wants to offer it again to another group, or if this group wants to go on to a phase 2, they can do it. So you've already got the mechanism. I know because I've used the mechanism, so I know it's there. And when you say that Professor Adams is going to tell us how to get control of our thinking and so forth and so on. Let me tell you, as a mentee of this man, I have watched him for years. I have been to any number of seminars, workshops, lectures, you name it. If Hunter Adams' name appears on it, I want to be there. Because if anybody can make you understand something that is esoteric with something that is complex and all of that, it is Hunter Adams. Yes. He can do it. He has a gift for not only making you understand things that you never even thought about wanting to understand before, but he can also motivate you to want to know things that you didn't know and didn't know that is important.
Yes.
That you know them. So it's, absolutely. I mean, Hunter, you know this. You got a little following of people. When you were at the ASCAC, we were all mad because you weren't, the space they provided wasn't big enough for all of us. We all hanging out in the corridor trying to get in there to hear what you have to say. He's always well prepared. Yes. He always has wonderful visuals. He always makes the point. He always causes you to think. He always presents new information in a very interesting light. So he is a born natural teacher. And the fact that he is a perennial student who is always going somewhere out of the country to learn some more stuff about some more stuff.
Yes.
I don't know who taught you reading, but Hunter Adams can read better than anybody I know. No. Yes, you can.
No.
Yeah, because if you meet Hunter anywhere, he's likely to give you something he has printed out that he read on the computer, or when you open up your email, you're likely to find Hunter on there 5, 6 times. He sent you email about things that are going on everywhere and in every echelon. So this man is such a role model, such a great teacher. To have him on your side, you've got the battle won already. And the fact that he has these affiliations with people who also share his enthusiasm for learning and for sharing is another plus. So I'm sure that I always think things happen for a reason, and I think this has not come to you in a happenstance. I think it has come to you because it was known that you would embrace it.
Yes.
And that you would take it forward. So you're doing that.
Yes. We're doing it.
Well,
we're doing it because
okay.
here you are, Dr. Lattimore. Again, I've seen you on the program, right? But I didn't think to communicate with you. Someone else did, who became affiliated with me through, and like, I'm with you. There's no happenstance. There's no luck in life. Things happen for a reason. For me, it's all in divine order. It happens
Absolutely.
because it's supposed to happen.
Absolutely.
And so here we are talking about it. So this is coming to fruition because of you and all of us, and we're going to make it happen. We just
Absolutely.
know we're going to make it happen.
It's happening.
It is.
It's happening.
No.
This little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine, not make it shine. It's already there.
It's already
It's
there.
shining, and I'm obscuring it either by my inactivity or something. I'm shading this light. You know, I've got a lampshade on it or something. You know, it's buried under a bush.
Yes.
So all I have to do is let it shine, because it's there burning its little bright heart out. So we want to not only let it keep happening, but we also want to do all that we can to see that it is sustained, because ideas tend to excite people in their newness and their novelty. But
True.
we need sustainability. You know, that's the key word, the code word. People are talking about green, they're talking about sustainability. Don't start doing stuff that you can't maintain. If why are you burning up all the energy available to mankind, in one brief time period? Why are you wasting the earth's resources? Why are you squandering the resources when you need those resources not only for your generation, but for generations yet unborn? So we must know that we're not only doing this for the children who live among us now, but we are doing this on behalf of children who are yet unborn.
And that's one of the things about the grounding social philosophy of Karnak, and that is when you have a civilization that was able to last for 3,000 plus years, they must have had something right. Their foundation, their intellectual foundation, had to be such that it fostered cohesion even when there was interruption and disruption, that somehow they managed to come back together around that central theme. And I think that's what will set Karnak apart from similar institutions, because there's good institutions around the city, around the country, that are doing good work in their own sphere. But, this is more of a global approach, right? Looking holistically. And looking holistically, you have to have something that's going to give you that vision, allow you to interrogate and evaluate your progress, deficiencies, to see how you're moving. How can we accelerate things? How can we improve this the next time it's offered? And so when you have a intellectual grounding, that's not rejected, as it says, the stone that the builders rejected, but that foundation stone, and that's what Ma'at represents. That was the first symbol of Ma'at, was the stone which the Netchers and the king stood on to express their authority in leadership. And so with the leadership of Dr. Brooks standing on such a foundation, that's expressing that type of leadership that is looking to see that this is going to be sustainable, that it's going to make a difference, it's going to impact lives, because once someone internalizes that and sees themselves differently from the way society views them, even how their own families may view them. You know, that's what this movie coming out soon, called Precious, is about. About a teenager who was just abused horrifically by her mother, but somehow she managed with inner strength to move past that. And that's the kind of lesson. I haven't seen the movie, but that's the gist of it. But that's the kind of lesson that Oprah and Tyler Perry were executive producers of. But that's the kind of lesson that other people need to see. They need to see success right on their block. If all they see is despair and depression, then they're going to mirror that to everyone else they see, because we have a whole internal system within our brains that captures all the movements and emotions of other people, and we bounce them off each other. And then that's all. If what we see is despair, then you can't help but be in a state of despair. But if there's a light in the midst of that, well, then that's an opening towards another possibility. And our people need to see that there's other possibilities, that every moment is a gift, that your attitudes in a large measure create your reality. And so if you can change your attitude, then you can change your reality, how you respond to things. So you won't necessarily, if someone accidentally steps on your foot, you know, reach for the gun, the knife, or your fist. You would say, well, do I want to go down that path, rather than just act on impulse? And that's what people forget, is that it takes time to think through things. It really takes time. And I do exercises to give people a sense of how much time it takes to think through things. That people do multitasking all the time, right? Well, you can't do multitasking. You can't do 10 things 100%. I'm sorry, you just can't do it. Your attention has to be focused on one thing at a time. And so the beauty about the Karnak Wellness Institute is that it aims to help people focus on those things to improve their lives, to improve their conditions, to transform them.
Well, you know, I know that it's important that we understand the reasoning in going back into ancient African civilization for the cornerstone to the Institute, that you have to go back to the oldest, most reliable wisdom. And when you tell people that, you know, here was a civilization that survived for 3,000 years, it may not make an impression, but when you realize that what we're talking about is a country, you know, the United States of America hasn't made it that far. and does not look at this point, it doesn't really look promising, given what we're seeing, you know, the social conditions that we're seeing unravel before us. We don't know how much longer we can keep going in this
It won't be 2012
direction. So to look at a civilization that had a track record of being able to sustain itself despite the fact it was not unassaulted, you know, it wasn't just sitting there, you know, living in peace, but there were invasions coming from everywhere, assaulting the people all the time, but yet they were able to maintain a balance, which is another meaning of Ma'at, is that whole idea of balance, of being able not to have to respond to changes in the weather, to changes, you know, that you're not a leaf in the wind just blowing about
everywhere.
Yeah, that you are grounded in something that is within you. You are grounded, and so circumstances may change, but you don't have to change with circumstances. So these kinds of things can be demonstrated, and these kind of things can be shared and can be taught, and we must do this. You know, at one point I was talking to Heisel Taylor. He was holding meetings. This was long before they had a Million Man March, and he was talking about a day on which black people came together to just contemplate their condition and talk about the things that we needed to do and so forth and so on. And he had been traveling all around the country to launch just such a program where it would not necessarily have been considered a boycott, but it was a day.
We tried to do that for 1993 for the Parliament of the World Religions.
That's right, but long before that ever happened, Heisel Taylor had the vision that the black community needed to stop and take a day, at least a day, and go to its church, synagogue, wherever its designated center was in its designated community, and itemize the concerns that it had and talk about means of addressing them and all of that, to just to evaluate, where are we? And, as we had these meetings and we talked about that, people started having these doubts about, well, do you think people would do it? Do you think that people would take off from work and not, and go to a center where they would have these discussions? Do you think people would contribute to a community treasure chest so that these monies could be utilized in the resolution of some of these problems and so forth and so on? And the more the doubts began to surface, the more it was clear to me we had to do it. Because you must test your strength. You can't just presume that you don't have any power, and you can't presume that you do. If you want to know if you have power, you have to use some power.
You got to be tested.
You have to test your strength.
Whitney Houston sings about that.
You
I
sent that
didn't know
email.
my own strength.
Right. We don't know our strength.
Yes.
So let's find out what it is. Let us find out if we are truly as impotent as we have been portrayed to be. And if we turn out to be just cowards and weaklings, then we can just crawl on back into our corner and take another beating. But if we are not, in fact, these pitiful little weaklings,
Pitiful people.
yeah, that we have been given to believe that we are, then we must test our strength. We must see what else can we do for ourselves, and then that'll just take us right on back to Garvey and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, the do for self people. Let us do this for ourselves.
Chinese do for self.
Everybody else does for self.
Everybody does for self. You're exactly right. And what we're talking about, this is the beauty of Karnak. It's given us this renewed inspiration. I didn't know about those meetings, but that will be a part of Karnak, because we need to come together and evaluate and assess what is going on in our community, but not to feel bad, not to feel depressed.
The truth.
But to have the truth and then act on the truth. This thing that we're impotent and that we're less than and we're crazy bad people, we know from history that we are great people. Great people. We've done great things. The pyramids that we built, they still don't have. Do they have the mathematical equation for how the pyramids came?
No, because no one has asked the question why they were built beyond simply being a, quote, tomb.
Yes.
I mean, that's the most important question that's never been asked. Why? Why were they built? What was the motivation for a 20-year construction project where men and women prided themselves on how well they did their jobs? And there's evidence of that today. So they weren't built by any slaves or conscription workers, but by people who were skilled, for the most part, depending upon the job that they did, because they wanted to do that. They were motivated to do that. And it wasn't just about the king. There was something deeper that motivated them to do that. And that's what Ma'at represented to them. It motivated them to want to do better, to want to build for eternity, as a quotation says. And so that's the type of motivation that the people are who are joining this effort
Yes.
are bringing to the table. They want to see this last for eternity. They want to see a profound change. Mayor Daley's not going to be the mayor forever. Eventually, he's going to lose or retire or something. So what's going to be the next round of leadership? What will the city look like? The aldermen aren't going to be here forever. What is that going to look like? Things are going to change, whether we want to admit that or not. And so it's preparing people to envision a change that's going to be sustainable for the community. That's what I would hope that this would be about. And the people who become part of it would share that type of vision, that this is beyond simply our existence. Because
And our survival. This is about our development.
it's development, not survival. Insects survive for hundreds of millions of years. I won't name them, but they do. But it's not simply survival day to day. It's about thinking through developing institutions, imagining different kinds of businesses. There's all kinds of possibilities. Why can't we have a Google here in Chicago? You know, right on the west side, an incubator for new ideas for business, for new technologies, for new things in medicine. The children have that. If you go to any elementary school, you see that in their science projects that they imagine.
We've
Yes.
got 1 minute, and I want to
Oh,
thank
wow.
you. I can't stand this because we have to give Malcolm X's phone number because people are going to be excited. They're going to want to call you up on the phone.
Yes.
So, Dr. Brooks, what's the numbers?
I'm going to give them my direct number to my office.
Oh, well,
okay?
you're going to be a busy man.
And that's okay, because
Okay.
if they're calling, that means they're sincere and they want to do something.
All right.
Okay? And so please call me at 312-850-7031.
Repeat.
312-850-7031.
All right. Now, this is the president of Malcolm X College. This is Ghingo Brooks, and this is Hunter Haviland Adams III, who will be a part of the Carnegie Institute. And then there are other people who are also coming aboard. And if you have something to give back to your community, then you ought to be contacting Ghingo Brooks and offering your services. Hotep.
Hotep,
Hotep.
sister.
Thank you.
Thank you.